The first time I saw him, I was halfway through a bad song in an even worse bar. My fingers hurt, the mic buzzed, and the only applause came from a drunk guy asking for more beer. I almost walked off mid-set. When I finished, he was the only one still watching. A quiet man in a black coat, sitting alone near the back. Eyes steady, like he'd heard something worth staying for. "You don't look like the kind who stays for sad songs," I said as I packed my guitar. He smiled faintly. "Your songs sound like pain. Guess that's all I've got to sell. Maybe that's why I can't stop listening." I blinked, unsure if he was mocking me or sincere. "You enjoyed that?" He shrugged. "I didn't enjoy it." "There's a difference." I laughed under my breath. "You're the first person to say that without irony. But then, maybe I'm the first person who's actually listening." That's how Noah Reed entered my life, with words that somehow cut deeper than applause ever could. Later that night, we sat outside the bar, sharing cigarettes in silence. The streetlights flickered over cracked concrete. He told me he used to manage small-time artists. "Used to?" I asked, got tired of chasing people who didn't want to be found, and now I'm chasing something real. I tilted my head. "You think I'm real?" He smirked. "You play like a man who's lost everything but still refuses to stop." "Maybe I have," I murmured. He didn't ask what I meant, and I didn't tell him. Days turned into weeks. Noah started showing up to every gig, sitting at the same table with the same quiet attention. One night, he brought a notebook full of scribbles. "What's this?" I asked. "Your set list," he said, flipping it open. "And your future. If you stop sabotaging yourself." I frowned. "That sounds like management talk." "Yeah, baby, it is," he said with a grin. "You need someone who believes in you." I raised an eyebrow. "And you? You volunteering for that job?" He nodded. "I am." "Why?" He hesitated, eyes flickering toward the stage lights. "Because when you sing, I forget the noise in my head. You make people feel something even if they don't want to." I stared at him for a long second, then said quietly, "You don't know what you're getting into." "Neither do you," he replied. That night, for the first time, I didn't feel like a failure. We started working together. Mornings meant rehearsals in my apartment, afternoons chasing bar owners for slots, nights ending with ramen cups and bad TV. He handled everything, the bookings, the calls, the things I was too tired or too broken to face. One evening, as we sat on the floor eating, he asked, "What keeps you doing this?" I thought for a moment. "Because if I stop singing, the silence will kill me." He nodded. "Then sing until it doesn't hurt." I looked at him. The steam from his ramen, fogging his glasses, and for a strange, fleeting second, I felt safe. The gigs got better, slightly bigger crowds, slightly louder cheers. One night after I played my newest song, a girl walked up crying. "Your music feels like breathing underwater," she said. When she left, Noah looked proud. "See? You're starting to reach people," laughed. "People like her?" "People like you," he corrected. I stared at the floor. "You think I'm saving anyone?" "I'm just bleeding on stage." "Sometimes that's exactly what saves them," he said softly. His words stayed with me, but the more I sang, the more I wanted. Every applause planted a seed, a hunger I couldn't explain. Late at night, I'd lie awake replaying each mistake, each missed note, each empty wallet on the counter. One night, Noah found me staring at a blank notebook. "Writer's block." "More like life block," I muttered. "I'm tired of being a nobody." He leaned against the doorframe. "You're not nobody. You're just waiting for the world to notice." "And what if it never does?" "Then I'll notice enough for both of us." I chuckled, half amused, half aching. "You really think that's enough?" He looked at me then, really looked. "For now, yeah." The room fell quiet. I wanted to believe him, but somewhere deep inside, I felt something twisting, ambition, fear, or both. Weeks later, he handed me a new flyer. "Audition in the city next month. Small venue, big crowd. You should go." I frowned. "We can't afford that trip." "I'll handle it." "Noah, don't argue. You've played for ghosts long enough." I smiled despite myself. You really think this could change everything? I don't think, he said. I know. That night, after he left, I sat alone with my guitar. My fingers moved without thinking, strumming the chords of the first song I ever wrote. The one he said sounded like pain. And for the first time, it didn't sound like pain anymore. It sounded like hope. But even then, as I looked at the dim glow of the city through my window, a strange thought crawled into my mind, that hope can be the first step toward losing everything. And somehow, I already knew when the world finally came for me, I'd forget how to sing for him. Evelyn entered my life like a storm dressed in velvet. She walked straight up to me after a gig, her heels clicking against the bar's sticky floor, her eyes sharp enough to cut glass. You've got talent, she said, but you need to stop thinking small. I raised an eyebrow. Small's all I've ever known. That's your problem. She handed me her card. Call me when you're ready to stop being invisible. Noah watched from across the room, arms crossed. He didn't smile when I waved the card. Who's that? He asked. Evelyn Crane. Talent rep. She says she sees potential. He snorted. She sees money, not music. Maybe they're the same thing, I said. He frowned. You don't even know her, and you do. I know her type. His tone was sharp, uncharacteristic. She doesn't care about your songs, Liam. She'll turn you into something shiny and empty. I laughed to mask the sting. Maybe that's what I need. That night, we argued. Not about Evelyn, not exactly, but about everything she represented. You're forgetting why you started, he said. I'm trying to survive, I shot back. We can't pay rent with passion. Since when did you start counting applause like currency? Since I realized no one hears me without it? He stared at me, disappointed. You used to sing because it hurt. Now you're singing to be seen? And what's wrong with that? I demanded. He didn't answer. He just walked away. Days passed, and Evelyn called again. Her voice was smooth, confident. I'm putting together a showcase, downtown. Labels will be there. You should play. I hesitated. Noah thinks forget Noah, she interrupted. You don't need someone holding you back out of fear. You need someone to push you forward. Her words echoed in my mind long after the call ended. Push forward. When I told Noah, he went quiet. You already said yes, didn't you? I'm thinking about it, he sighed. No, you're not. You've already made up your mind. I looked down. I just want to try. Try what? Selling what's left of yourself. Maybe I'm tired of being broke and noble. His jaw tightened. Then maybe I'm tired of watching you trade your soul for applause. The showcase night felt like a dream. Bright lights, cameras, people who actually listened. Evelyn was right. The crowd cheered. They asked for autographs. They wanted photos. For once, I wasn't the man in the corner. After my last song, Evelyn wrapped her arm around me. That, she whispered, was fame knocking. I smiled, adrenaline burning through me. Feels good. It should. Now imagine this times 1,000. Noah stood in the back, silent. He didn't clap. Later outside, he said quietly, You were great. Thanks, I replied, expecting more. But that was it. Just those 2 words, heavy with something unsaid. Weeks later, Evelyn offered me a contract. She slid the papers across the table at a fancy cafe, something I wasn't used to. This will change your life, she said. I ran my hand over the glossy pages. Noah will want to read it. She smiled. Do you want to be a star or a student? Real artists take chances. I bit my lip. He's always looked out for me. Maybe that's why you're still here instead of out there, she said. Pointing toward the city skyline, her words hit harder than I expected. That night, I found Noah in the apartment. Fixing my guitar strap like always, she offered me a deal. I said. He didn't look up. I figured, she believes in me. So did I, he said softly. You still do, right? He paused. I believe in your music. I just don't trust hers. So maybe you just don't trust me anymore. Set the strap down. Maybe I don't trust who you're becoming. The silence that followed was worse than yelling. 2 days later, I signed the contract. I didn't tell him. I told myself it was just business, that he'd understand once he saw what I could become. But when I came home, he was waiting. The papers were on the counter, the ink still fresh. "You went behind my back," he said. "I had to." "No, you wanted to." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. He turned away. I guess that's my answer. When the door closed, the apartment felt smaller, colder. The silence between us was louder than applause. And for the first time, the sound of my own ambition scared me. Flashes blinded me before the applause ever stopped ringing. Cameras, contracts, schedules, everything moved faster than I could breathe. I smiled when they told me to smile, laughed when they told me to laugh. Somewhere between rehearsals and interviews, I stopped remembering what silence felt like. Noah still came around, but quieter now. He stood behind the scenes, hands in his pockets, watching me like I was someone he used to know. One night, after another endless shoot, he said, "You're not singing anymore. Liam, you're performing." I wiped off my makeup, staring at my reflection, too polished to perfect. "Isn't that the same thing?" He shook his head. "You used to bleed when you sang? Now it's just glitter." I laughed, though it sounded hollow. "You make it sound like success is a sin." "It's not success that scares me," he said quietly. "It's what it's turning you into." Turned to face him. "You think I've changed?" "I don't think," he said. "I know." The next morning, Evelyn shoved a magazine in my face. "Look at that cover. You're finally someone people recognize." My face stared back from glossy paper. I smiled, holding it up. "Guess we're doing something right." "Doing everything right," she corrected, tapping her red nails on the page. "Just don't let anyone drag you down." I knew she meant Noah. When I told her he was worried, she rolled her eyes. "He's jealous, Liam. It's classic, the friend who liked you better when you were struggling." "That's not fair," I said. "Neither is fame," she replied with a smirk. "You can't keep everyone happy." I wanted to believe her. I told myself I did. Later that night, Noah waited for me outside the studio. His hoodie was pulled up, rain dripping from the edge. "You missed dinner," he said. "I had a shoot." "Said that yesterday and the day before," I muttered, brushing past him. "That's kind of the job now." He followed me inside. "Since when do you let them decide everything? What to wear, what to say, when to breathe?" "Since I started making enough to eat something other than instant noodles," I snapped. He flinched. "You think this is what she meant by helping you?" "Evelyn knows the industry. She's getting me somewhere." "Yeah," he said bitterly. "Away from yourself." I turned on him. "You're just angry I didn't ask for your permission." He looked at me like he was seeing a stranger. "No, Liam, I'm angry because I used to believe you meant what you sang." The words hit harder than I wanted to admit. "So what? I'm supposed to stay broke to prove I care?" He sighed. "You used to play for the sound. Now you play for the crowd." I crossed my arms. Maybe the crowd's finally listening. Noah opened his mouth, then stopped. His eyes softened, just for a second. "You're chasing noise, not meaning." I didn't answer. I couldn't. He turned away, rain still dripping from his hoodie. "You'll figure it out," he said before walking out the door that night. The silence in my apartment felt different, heavier. I stared at my guitar, untouched for days. When I strummed a few notes, they felt empty, rehearsed. Evelyn called. We booked a live TV slot. Big audience, millions watching. "You ready?" I forced enthusiasm into my voice. "Always." She laughed. "That's my star." After the call, I sat in the dark, replaying Noah's words. "You're not singing anymore. You're performing." Maybe he was wrong. Maybe he didn't understand. Or maybe he did. The next show was massive. Bright lights. Perfect crowd. I sang every line flawlessly. People screamed my name. Flashbulbs flickered like lightning. But as I bowed, I caught sight of one empty seat in the back, the one he used to sit in. After the encore, Evelyn hugged me. That was perfection. I smiled for the cameras. "Yeah," I said. "Perfect," but inside something cracked. Backstage, a fan handed me a photo to sign, an old one of me and Noah playing in that tiny bar. smiling over cheap beer and dreams that didn't cost our souls. My hand shook as I signed it later. In the dressing room, I sat alone, makeup melting under the hot lights. The applause still echoed from the hall. It sounded like applause. But all I could hear was Noah's voice. "You're performing," he was right, and I hated him for it. Asterisk. The arena pulsed like a heartbeat. Lights flashed, smoke curled across the stage, and the crowd screamed my name, louder than I'd ever dreamed. I should have felt alive. Instead, all I could think about was whether he was somewhere in that ocean of faces. Before the show, Evelyn gripped my shoulders. "This is it, Liam. The night the world finally sees you." I smiled, but my chest tightened. "He said he'd come." "Who?" she asked. "Noah." She rolled her eyes. "Forget him. You don't need ghosts in the front row." I laughed weakly. "He's not a ghost." "Then why does he haunt you?" I didn't answer. The stage manager shouted, "You're on," and pushed me toward the light. The roar was deafening. I strummed the first chord, and the crowd exploded. Phones flashed like stars. My voice filled the air, strong and practiced. But my eyes searched the dark edges of the arena. Every spotlight that swept across the audience felt like a question. "Are you here?" When the final song ended, the applause thundered. I bowed, smiling on instinct. But the emptiness hit before the echo faded. Backstage, Evelyn burst in, grinning. "You killed it. This is your moment, Liam." "Yeah," I said quietly. "My moment." She didn't notice the way my voice cracked. She was too busy celebrating when everyone left. I found an envelope on my dressing table. My name written in familiar handwriting. My heart stopped. I tore it open. "You made it. Don't look back." No signature. But I didn't need one. I called him immediately, straight to voicemail. "Come on, Noah," I whispered. "Pick up." "Nothing." I called again. Again, the same hollow tone answered me. By the fifth call, I was shouting into the phone. "You can't just disappear now." "You said we'd." I stopped myself. The words sounded pathetic in the echo of an empty room. I stared at the letter again. It felt final. Don't look back. But that's all I could do. Days turned into weeks. My schedule filled with interviews, rehearsals, award shows. Faces blurred together. Names I didn't remember congratulated me. Every time someone said, "You must be so proud," I smiled and said, "Yeah. It's everything I wanted." But the truth was, I didn't even know what that meant anymore at night. I scrolled through old photos, the bar gigs, the ramen dinners, the two of us laughing over broken strings and empty wallets. I tried calling again. Same silence. One morning, Sophie, one of our mutual friends, called. "Liam, I thought you knew." "Knew what?" I asked, my throat dry. "Noah left the city. Packed up, gone. Didn't tell anyone where." I froze. "When?" "Right after your concert." I laughed, but it came out wrong, sharp and cold. "Guess he really meant it then?" "Liam, he cared about you," she said softly. "Maybe too much." "Yeah," I muttered. A funny way of showing it. That night, Evelyn threw a party in my honor. "You're the hottest name in music," she shouted over the bass. "Every label wants you." People surrounded me, champagne glasses clinking, laughter bouncing off the walls. A blonde girl leaned close. "You're even better, Liv," she whispered. I smiled automatically. "Thanks." But I didn't hear her voice. I heard his, "You're not singing anymore, Liam. You're performing." I excused myself, slipping outside. The air was sharp and cold, cutting through the noise in my head. The city glittered below like another stage, bright, loud, unreal. My phone buzzed with notifications. I ignored them. Then I saw his contact still pinned at the top, Noah. For a moment, I hovered over the call button. Then I put the phone down. "Don't look back," I whispered. But I already was. The next morning, Evelyn stormed in. "You missed the after-party interview. Do you know what that cost us?" I rubbed my eyes. "I didn't feel like talking, Liam," she snapped. "The world is listening. You can't just—" I stood up. "The world's not who I want to talk to." She blinked. You're throwing everything away for one guy who couldn't handle your success? He wasn't jealous, I said quietly. He was honest. Evelyn sighed, shaking her head. You're too sentimental. That's your weakness. Maybe, I said, but at least it's still mine. That night I tried to write a new song. The melody came easily, but the words they refused. Every line felt fake. I closed my notebook and sat there, staring at my guitar, the same one he bought me, the same one that started everything. I strummed it once. The sound echoed through the empty apartment, hollow and cold. I whispered, "You made it." "Don't look back," silence answered. And for the first time, I realized fame is the loudest kind of loneliness. Fame doesn't sound like applause anymore. It sounds like static, endless, echoing static. Months passed and my face was everywhere. Billboards, magazines, late-night shows. People cheered, cameras flashed, and I smiled like it meant something. Inside, it all buzzed like white noise. Evelyn slammed another contract onto the table one afternoon. "Europe wants you next," she said. 3 cities, back to back. I leaned back in the chair. "I just got off tour." "Exactly," she said. "Momentum, Liam. You're marketable now. Don't kill it by being sentimental." "Sentimental," I repeated, almost laughing. "That's what we're calling being human now." She crossed her arms. "You think the world cares about your feelings?" "They care about your brand." "My brand," I muttered. "Not my music." "It's the same thing." "It's not," I said. "You wouldn't understand," she sighed. "Then help me understand, because from where I'm standing, this moody act of yours is getting old." I stood up. "It's not an act. I just don't feel like selling pieces of myself anymore." Evelyn shook her head. "You're tired, that's all. Take the weekend off. Then we'll talk." That weekend, I didn't rest. I sat in my apartment surrounded by trophies that didn't feel like victories. The walls echoed with silence. I picked up my guitar, strummed a few notes, and stopped halfway. Nothing came out right. Every lyric sounded polished, artificial, like it was written for someone else's life. My phone buzzed. It was Mark, one of the few people from before all this. "Hey," he said when I answered. "You sound dead." "Good to hear from you, too." "I mean it," he said. "When's the last time you slept?" I laughed weakly. "Who keeps track anymore?" "Liam," he said quietly, "you've changed." "I'm supposed to," I replied. "Isn't that the point?" "No," he said. "The point was to make music, not to lose yourself in it." "I didn't lose myself," I said. "I just misplaced the quiet parts." "Bullshit," Mark said. "You lost the only person who saw you before the lights. Doesn't that bother you?" I closed my eyes. Every day, there was silence on the line. Then he said softly, "Then do something about it." "What would you have me do?" I asked. "Call him? Tell him I finally realized he was right?" "He doesn't want to hear from me, you don't know that." "I do," I said. He left. He chose the silence. Mark sighed. "Then stop pretending yours is any different." The next morning, Evelyn called again. "You skipped the radio spot. Are you trying to ruin this?" "I just needed time," I said. "Time doesn't pay for the studio, Liam. I don't care." Her tone hardened. "Then what do you care about?" I hesitated. "The music. The kind I used to make." She scoffed. "You mean the sad boy acoustic stuff no one listens to anymore?" I clenched my jaw. "People listened once, 'cause you were a novelty then," she said. "Now you're a product. Accept it." I hung up before she could say more. That night, I sat on the balcony with a glass of whiskey, watching the city glow beneath me. So much noise, cars, laughter, music from some rooftop bar. Yet I'd never felt so disconnected from it all. I whispered, "You were right, Noah." The wind carried the words away. I remembered the way he used to listen, not to my songs, but to me. How he'd say, "The pain in your voice makes it real." How I'd laugh, pretending I didn't believe him. Now surrounded by millions, I'd never felt less real. I picked up my phone again. His number was still there. My thumb hovered over it. I typed a message. "I get it now. I'm sorry I didn't send it. I just stared at the blinking cursor until the screen went dark. The next day, I met Mark for coffee. He studied me for a long time before speaking. "You look like a man who's everywhere but here." "I think I left myself somewhere between a photo shoot and a sound check," I said. He smiled sadly. "Then maybe it's time to stop chasing echoes." I nodded, though the words felt heavier than I wanted to admit. As we left, a fan approached. "Liam, can I get a picture?" I smiled automatically. "Sure." She took the photo, thanked me, and left. Mark watched quietly. "You're smiling, but it's all in your mouth, not your eyes." I sighed. "That's the price of noise, I guess." He frowned, then find the silence again. That night, I turned off my phone, shut the blinds, and picked up my guitar. No cameras, no producers, no lights. Just me, for the first time in months. I played something raw, off-key, imperfect. Honest, and when the last note faded, the silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt like peace. Asterisk, the whiskey burned all the way down, but not enough. Nothing ever was. I stumbled through the rain toward the one place I shouldn't go, our old apartment. The keys still fit. When I pushed the door open, the silence hit harder than the alcohol ever could. Dust covered everything. But it was his dust. His mug still sat on the counter, a ring of dried coffee around the rim. The same chipped guitar leaned against the wall, strings dull but familiar. Even the dead plant was still there, the one he swore he'd watered tomorrow. I whispered, "You really just left it all, huh?" I sat on the couch, my head heavy. "You just walked out like I was something you could forget." My voice cracked. "You said you believed in me, Noah, so why did you stop?" The sound of the rain filled the room, steady and unbothered. I rubbed my face, half laughing, half breaking. "You probably hate what I've become. Or maybe you saw it coming." The door creaked. I turned. Julia stood there, holding an umbrella. Her expression was soft, cautious. "Liam," she said, stepping in. "You shouldn't be here." "Why?" I asked. "It's just an empty place now." She looked around. "Not to you." I sighed. I thought if I came back, maybe it would make sense. Why he left. Why he didn't even say goodbye. Julia hesitated, closing the door behind her. "You've been drinking." I shrugged. "Congratulations." "You're very observant." She ignored the sarcasm. "You miss him." I let out a bitter laugh. "Miss him?" "I breathe him, Julia. Every damn song, every crowd, I keep seeing his face. And he's not there." She swallowed hard. "There's something you don't know." "I don't need excuses," I said. "He left. That's all I need to know." "No," she said quietly. "He didn't leave because he wanted to." I frowned. "What does that mean?" She walked closer, her voice trembling. "He was sick, Liam." My mind froze. "What?" She nodded. "He didn't tell anyone. Not even me. Not at first. It was late stage. He found out a few months before your big concert." I blinked, my heart hammering. "You're lying." "I wish I was," she whispered. I shook my head. No, that's not possible. He was fine. He was just tired, that's all." Julia's eyes glistened. "He didn't want you to see him like that. He said he didn't want your music to turn into pity." Backed away until my knees hit the coffee table. He could have told me." "He knew you wouldn't let go," she said. "You would have thrown everything away for him." "Of course I would have." I shouted. I stopped, the words stuck in my throat. Julia's voice softened. "He loved you, Liam. That's why he left. He wanted you to become everything he saw in you." I pressed my hands against my head, shaking. No. He walked out without a word. "He made me believe I drove him away. I thought that was easier for you to hate him than to watch him die," she said. My chest tightened until I couldn't breathe. The walls seemed to close in, his laughter echoing in my head. "I would have stayed," I whispered. "I would have stayed through it all." Julia reached for my shoulder. "He knew that. That's why he didn't give you the choice." I stared at the old guitar. "He left that behind. I thought it was to forget me." Julia smiled faintly. He said it belonged to you now. Said maybe one day you'd play it again, not for the world, but for him. Tears blurred my vision. I picked it up, the wood cold under my fingers. The first chord I played cracked mid-note, but it sounded real. He should have told me, I said. He wanted you to remember him strong, she whispered. Not fading. I swallowed hard. He thought fame would fill the hole he left. Did it? I looked at her, eyes stinging. No, it just made it louder. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The rain softened, the air thick with the kind of silence that meant everything and nothing at once. Julia stood by the door. You should rest. I can't, I said. Not yet, she nodded, leaving quietly. When the door shut, I sat there alone again, surrounded by ghosts that never really left. I whispered into the empty room. You didn't just leave, did you? You saved me. The guitar slipped from my hand as I buried my face in my arms. For the first time in years, I cried not out of guilt, but because I finally understood. When Julia called me the next morning, her voice trembled. Can you meet me at the cafe near the pier? I almost said no. I hadn't slept. My eyes swollen from crying, my mind wrecked. But something in her tone made me go. The cafe was nearly empty. She sat by the window, holding a small white envelope. My name was written on it, his handwriting. What's that? I asked, though I already knew. She slid it toward me. He left this with me before he left the city. I stared at it, my fingers frozen. Why didn't you give it to me then? Because he made me promise, she said softly. He said, only give it to him when he's ready to stop running. A bitter laugh escaped me. And now you think I'm ready? I think you're finally hurting for the right reason, she replied. I looked down at the letter again. The edges were worn, a little stained, like it had been carried too long. My chest tightened as I tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, creased, smudged with faded ink. His handwriting was still careful, still him. I began to read aloud, voice shaking. Liam, if you're reading this, then I kept my promise to leave before you could stop me. You deserved to shine, and I knew you never would if I stayed. You've always carried my belief on your back like it was a burden. But it wasn't meant to cage you. It was meant to set you free. Swallowed hard. The words blurred. Don't waste that light by looking back for me. I loved you enough to disappear. I loved you enough to let you hate me, if that's what it took for you to live. Play for the crowds, sing for yourself, but never forget who you were before the noise. That's the only version of you that ever mattered to me. The last line trembled off the page, uneven, like his hands had been weak. Noah. I pressed the paper to my chest, as if I could pull him back through it. Julia's voice broke the silence. He wanted you to find peace, not punishment. My hands were shaking. He should have told me, Julia. I could have. She interrupted gently. You couldn't have saved him. I didn't even try, I snapped. I was too busy proving I didn't need him. Too busy chasing stages and cameras while he was. I stopped. The words burned. While he was dying alone, her eyes softened. He didn't want you to carry that kind of guilt. I laughed, bitter and broken. Too late. The cafe grew quiet. The hum of the espresso machine faded into background noise. Julia leaned forward. You loved him. I met her eyes. More than I ever said, she nodded slowly. Then honor him by living, not drowning. I looked at the letter again. The ink had smeared under my thumb, one word. Loved. Nearly gone. I traced it, whispering, he didn't abandon me. Julia tilted her head. What? I looked up, my voice cracking. He didn't abandon me. I abandoned him. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. I pushed him away. I continued. Every fight, every cruel word, I wanted to prove I could make it without him. And he just let me because that's who he was. Julia's eyes glistened. And now, I said quietly, I'd give it all back. The fame, the shows, the spotlight, just to tell him I was never really shining. I was burning out. She reached across the table, placing her hand over mine. Then stop burning. Start healing. The letter trembled between us. I folded it carefully, like it might crumble if I breathed too hard. He thought disappearing would save me. Maybe it did, she said. I looked out the window. The sea shimmered beyond the glass, endless and calm. He was my music, I murmured. Everything after him was just noise. Julia smiled faintly. Then maybe it's time to write a song that's quiet. I stared at her, then down at the folded paper. A song for him. For you, she corrected softly. The words sank in. I closed my eyes, letting the silence settle. For the first time, the ache in my chest didn't feel like a wound, it felt like a heartbeat. A reminder. I stood, tucking the letter into my jacket. Thank you, Julia. She nodded. Where will you go? Home, I said. Wherever that is now? As I stepped outside, the wind carried the scent of salt and rain. I looked up at the gray sky and whispered, You loved me enough to disappear, but I'll love you enough to remember. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel lost, just alive. Asterisk, I hadn't touched my guitar in months. It sat by the window, coated in dust, silent like the space Noah used to fill. That morning, I finally picked it up. My fingers trembled against the strings. The first chord cracked something open inside. Sophie knocked once before walking in. You're playing again, she said, smiling softly. Trying to, I muttered. She leaned against the wall. What's it called? I don't know yet, I said. It's for him. Her expression softened. Noah. I nodded. It's not for the charts, or the label, or anyone who's listening. Just him. She walked closer, her voice quiet. After all this time, you're still talking to him through music. That's the only language we ever really shared. I played again, letting the melody breathe. It was slow, fragile, almost afraid to exist. Each note felt like a memory, ramen steam rising between us. The sound of his laugh, the silence that came before goodbye. Sophie sat on the edge of the couch. It sounds honest to honest, I said, chuckling bitterly. It's like every word I never said decided to show up at once. That's how healing sounds. I looked at her. You think healing sounds this broken? She tilted her head. Sometimes broken is just another word for real. The line stayed with me. I kept writing for hours, maybe days. The world outside blurred into nothing. My lyrics weren't poetry or perfection. They were confessions. I let you fade when I should have held on. I built my world out of noise when all you gave me was silence. And now I sing to an echo that never answers back. When I finished, my voice was raw. The studio lights hummed, the same way they used to when Noah adjusted them just right. I could almost hear him teasing, "You're off key again." I smiled through the sting in my chest. Still am, probably. The next day I called Sophie. I want to record it, she hesitated. Are you sure? This one feels personal. That's why I have to. We went to the studio that night. I sat alone in the booth. No producers, no engineers, no crowds. Just me, the mic, and the ghost of everything I'd lost. When the red light blinked on, closed my eyes, the first lyric came out as a whisper. By the chorus, it felt like a confession. I'm sorry I let you disappear, I sang, when you were the only thing keeping me alive. When I finished, the room was quiet. My throat ached. My hands shook. I looked up at the glass Sophie was wiping her eyes. It sounds like closure, she said. I exhaled slowly. Maybe it is. A week later, the song went live. I didn't promote it. Didn't post. Just released it into the world and waited. But the world found it anyway. Messages poured in. This song healed me. It sounds like saying goodbye. It's his masterpiece. I laughed when I read that last one. His masterpiece, I repeated under my breath. Not mine. Sophie called that night. You've done it, Liam. You've finally turned the pain into something beautiful. It's not beauty, I said quietly. It's forgiveness. I just hope he can hear it wherever he is. Ow, she hesitated. Maybe he already has. I didn't answer. I sat by the open window, letting the song play through my phone. The melody drifted into the night air. Carried by the wind like a message, the chorus hit again, soft, aching, full of everything I never said. I whispered along. You loved me enough to disappear. I loved you enough to finally let go. The tears came quietly this time. No breakdown, no noise, just release. For once, I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel the hollow ache of what-ifs. Just peace, quiet, unshakable peace. Sophie texted me later. It's not just a song, Liam. It's your goodbye. I stared at her message for a long time before replying. No, it's my thank you. Outside, the city lights shimmered. I thought of Noah's voice, his hands, his belief that I could shine even when I doubted myself. And for the first time, I wasn't singing to the past. I was singing because of it. The song faded out, but the silence after didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like forgiveness, slow, steady, and finally real. The stage was smaller than I remembered stages being. No lights, no smoke, no roaring crowd. Just a wooden floor, a stool, and the low hum of old speakers. It was a charity event for a mental health foundation. Someone thought it would mean something if I performed that song. I didn't bring a band. Didn't even bring a manager. Just me and my guitar. When I stepped up, the MC smiled. Our final performer, Liam Hart. The applause was polite, soft, almost shy. I took a breath, sat down, and let the silence hang for a moment. Hi, I said, voice shaky, but real. I'm not here to perform tonight. I just want to share something? Someone coughed in the back? I smiled faintly. I wrote this song for someone I lost, someone who believed in me long before the world did. I adjusted the mic, fingers brushing the strings. He taught me that love doesn't vanish when people do. It lingers in music, in memory, in the quiet. Then I began to play. The first note carried through the room like a breath. No spotlight, no camera flashes. Just the sound of wood and wire and heartache. When I reached the chorus, I closed my eyes. You loved me enough to disappear. I loved you enough to let go. Somewhere in the front row, someone sniffled. I didn't look up. I couldn't. By the time I finished, the room was still. I set the guitar down and whispered thank you. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then applause, not loud but genuine. The kind that doesn't need to fill a room to mean something. After the set, I stayed near the exit half hidden. People passed by, nodding, smiling, whispering beautiful or thank you. Then she stopped in front of me, a girl, maybe 20, long dark hair, trembling hands. Hi, she said softly. Are you Liam? I smiled. Last I checked. She clutched a small notebook. I wanted to say thank you. For what? Her voice cracked. That song. The one you just sang? It saved me. Saved you? She nodded quickly. I was going through something. I lost my brother last year. He used to sing your songs. When I heard that one online, I don't know. It made me feel like I wasn't alone anymore. Her eyes glistened. I know it's weird, but it helped me start living again. I didn't know what to say. Words felt too small for something that big. Instead, I whispered, then maybe it wasn't written in vain. She smiled, small, trembling, full of light. It wasn't. I watched her walk away, clutching her notebook like it was something precious. The event ended soon after. The chairs were folded, the lights flicked off, the room emptied. I stayed behind, sitting on the edge of the stage. Sophie came up beside me. You okay? Yeah, I said quietly. Better than I've been in a long time. You didn't need the lights tonight. No, I said, staring at the guitar. I think I finally found what I was missing, and what's that? Purpose. She nodded slowly. Noah would have been proud. I swallowed hard. I hope so. The janitor flicked the last switch. The room went dark, except for the faint glow from the exit sign. Sophie laughed softly. You're still sitting here? Yeah, I said. I just want to remember this moment. No noise, no fame, no lies. Just truth. She patted my shoulder. Truth looks good on you, Liam. When she left, I sat alone, the silence wrapping around me. I took a deep breath. For the first time, it didn't hurt to breathe in the stillness. I imagined him, Noah, sitting in the front row, his quiet smile, his patient eyes. "You'd probably say I finally stopped performing," I whispered. "Took me long enough, huh?" The echo of my voice lingered in the empty hall. I smiled, closing my eyes. "Thank you for believing," I murmured, even when I didn't. I stood, slung the guitar over my shoulder, and walked out into the night. The air was cool, the city quiet. The stars felt close, close enough to talk to, and for once I didn't need applause. I didn't need lights. I didn't need to be seen. I just needed to be, as I walked away from the hall. I whispered to the wind, "You saved me too." Noah. The ocean looked endless that morning. Silver light scattered across calm water, the wind soft and unhurried. I hadn't been back here since before everything happened. Now, I stood barefoot in the sand, Noah's letter in my hand. "Creased and worn from being opened too many times," I whispered. "You'd hate how dramatic this is." The waves rolled closer, brushing against my feet like a quiet laugh. I know, I said, half smiling. "You'd tell me to stop overthinking and just live." The paper fluttered in my hand, fragile as breath. Sophie had asked me earlier, "You sure you want to do this alone?" I'd told her, "Yeah, I owe him this. Just me and him." I sat on the sand, knees pulled close, the horizon stretching forever. "You said not to look back," I murmured, unfolding the letter again. The ink had faded, but I could still see every word. "You deserve to shine. Liam, don't waste that light by looking back for me. I loved you enough to disappear," I exhaled. "You always knew the right words, didn't you?" The wind caught my voice and carried it away. I laughed softly. "You'd probably tease me for talking to the sea." I stared at the horizon. "You know, I used to think letting go meant forgetting. That moving on meant erasing everything that hurt. But now I get it. You don't move past people. You carry them. You carry what they gave you." The waves whispered back, as if agreeing. I smiled faintly. "I think you'd be proud." "I finally stopped running from your ghost." I hesitated, the letter trembling between my fingers. "Do you remember the night we played on that tiny stage? There were, 7 people in the audience?" I chuckled. "You said, 'We'll fill arenas one day.' And I told you you were insane. Turns out you were right again." A pause. "But the arenas weren't worth it without you in them." My throat tightened. I didn't understand then. You weren't chasing success. You were chasing meaning. I stood, walking closer to the water. And I was too busy chasing noise. The tide reached higher now, brushing over my toes. The letter shook in my hand. "You said not to look back, but I think you'd be proud." The paper bent in the wind, edges dampening. I smiled through the ache. "I'm not angry anymore, Noah. I'm just grateful." I let the letter go. It drifted from my fingers, slow and gentle, landing on the water like a fragile boat. The waves carried it out further, smaller, till it was just a white flicker disappearing into blue. For a long time, I just watched. "Goodbye," I whispered. Then quieter, or maybe not goodbye. Maybe just, "Thank you." Sky shifted, clouds parting, sunlight cutting through like a melody breaking silence. I sat again, hands in the sand. A shell rolled against my palm, smooth and pale. I turned it over and smiled. "You'd probably laugh at how poetic this is," I said softly. "Me sitting here, talking to the ocean like it's going to answer." But it did answer in waves. In wind, in warmth that didn't hurt anymore. For the first time, I didn't feel hollow. I could still hear his voice. "You're more than the music. Liam, don't forget that." I smiled, tears tracing down, but not from pain. I didn't forget. I just had to lose everything to remember. I stood, brushing sand from my jeans. "You were right, you know. Fame was never the dream. Connection was." The gulls circled above, their cries sharp against the quiet surf. I looked at the horizon again, at where the letter had vanished. "You loved me when I had nothing," I whispered. And that love, that was everything. The ocean shimmered, endless, alive. I closed my eyes, breathing deep. For the first time, I felt free. Not from him, but with him. The waves came and went, carrying his words, carrying my silence. One listened and heard music, not from strings or microphones or applause, just from life itself. I smiled, turned from the shore, and walked away. No crowd, no stage, no spotlight. Just peace. The sound of the sea followed me as I whispered one last time. When the music ends, I'll still be listening.